Hey DF, what are your thoughts on the upgrades to the Creation Engine? What are the most notable upgrades? Where are some areas that you believe could be improved further after playing the game? Oliver, thoughts?
In terms of specific upgrades to the Creation Engine, I'm not too sure because I didn't do like a lot of cross comparison with Fallout 4. But what I can say is that like a lot of the interior spaces just look absolutely beautiful. Like their PBR system is fantastic. Plastics and glass, their volumetrics, all that stuff looks really, really good. Artificial areas look fantastic. In terms of
Mm-hmm.
areas that could probably still use some improvement, the character faces are of, I would say, a pretty decent quality overall and are definitely a huge improvement. But, you know, there's some stuff there that's not amazing, obviously. But part of that is just a concession to how big these games are, I feel. The one area that I did think could use some improvement and was not great in prior Creation Engine games either is some of the stuff they have with foliage shading. The trees don't have natural self shadows to me. The ferns, like if you go through New Atlantis, it just the lighting looks quite flat on a lot of foliage
Yeah.
elements. So that's probably my biggest like visual bugbear in this game, and I think it's something they could definitely improve a fair bit further to get it up to kind of par.
Okay, interesting. Well, John, you did do the comparisons to prior Bethesda games,
Lightly, yeah.
studios titles. So, what do you think about the upgrades to the engine? I mean, well, from my perspective, I think Oliver nailed it, which is that the handling of materials is just outstanding compared to prior titles. It is a generation beyond what we saw in the Fallout 4 and Fallout 76.
Yeah, I'd say that's the biggest change here. They actually shifted to the Forge, which is a cross-platform rendering framework that supports Creation Engine, of course. And that is likely they built on that, and the result is a much more capable rendering framework versus what they had in the past. With a lot of the modern features you expect from modern rendering, that looks really good. I do think that the PBR pipeline, the quality of their indirect lighting, given that it's dynamic and not ray traced, is pretty impressive overall, despite some of the errors you can uncover. And generally everything just has this like level of granularity that we've never actually seen in a Bethesda game before, where normally if you just zoom the camera in and like look closely at any random object, they didn't usually look very good. And you can really see it in Fallout 4. It just, they don't hold up under close scrutiny, but that's not the case any longer. And the computers and the technology scattered throughout the Starfield universe, I think, is shockingly good in terms of actual fidelity. Like you can zoom all the way in, and I did in my video on these things, and there's just tremendous texture detail there, which is excellent to see. And that I think that's the best they've ever done by a long shot. That alone makes a huge difference. But as you said, Oliver, there are areas, especially the more natural environments, where things don't necessarily come together. Foliage and lighting can look weird and create kind of strange results. And it's exactly as I predicted on the direct last time, where I said there's going to be bad
Yes.
actors out there posting shots of things to make it look bad, without context, or, they did exactly what I said, like to the
Well, the
letter.
standout one was the Horizon versus Starfield
Oh,
NPC comparisons.
Yeah, I
With,
mean the end. So this is interesting stuff. I do want to explain a little bit about their approaches to this, because we've seen it in both Sony and Microsoft games. But like, first, let me talk about Ratchet and Clank. When that game came out, there was this thing going around where people were jumping into an area of the world where you're not supposed to go. And then they were positioning the camera in a strategic way to essentially reveal some of the faults in the rendering. And then they were parading this around as like, this is representative of the visuals in Ratchet and Clank. It was extremely dishonest, right? The same thing kind of happened here, but in a different way. So the NPCs, as I pointed out in my video, they're often very ugly, right? They don't look very good, but there's a interesting peculiarity with them where their eyes track the player movement, right? So what they did was essentially go into New Atlantis, where the NPCs actually look the worst, by the way. I don't know why, but it's specifically the NPCs in that city look the worst in the entire game. It's very strange. But by crouching before them and getting the camera at a sharp angle below them, you actually cause their eyes to shift down, which gives this really weird, like, kind of effect, which, it takes what are already not great looking NPCs and makes them look significantly goofier. And so when you show that to somebody that doesn't understand what they're looking at, they just see something that looks really stupid, right? And you put that next to a game like Horizon Forbidden West has the best NPCs I've ever seen in a game, like, you know, an open world kind of game like this, right? Like the best bar none. They absolutely nailed it. So that's already kind of a, you know, that's an interesting comparison there, but they very specifically make Starfield look worse than it should by manipulating the camera and the behavior of the NPCs to paint them in this negative light. And I mean, this is what I said last week that they would do, and that's exactly what people did. And it's fascinating to see it.